So a little work going on today. I was having Cody cut the cow area out. I always wanted, or I've never got around to it, but I wanted to cut this out on both sides because I'm probably going to put the coils maybe in here, maybe some other stuff, I'm not sure. But this will be an area where we can tuck stuff away and get it out of the way. And one thing we're going to do, we're going to cut this out from where this throttle pedal comes up through here. We're going to cut all this out, and this will expose all the hydraulic connections. We're going to put all the reservoirs in here where you won't be able to see any of it. When you pull the front end off, you'll be able to service everything and feel it and check it and see it and all that. It'll be really convenient to have it there. What I was working on while he was cutting that, I got some templates here, and I was working on the cover panel for this little area that traps rocks that I told y'all about that he's going to cover up. I was just going to put a piece of sheet metal on here and let it fold over, but either way you look at it, you're going to have two pieces because of the way it's shaped. So I decided to stretch it on out and make it look kind of factory, and then lay it in right under where the bracing is for the door latch. You can see it folds around there and ties back into the sheet metal. Really looks clean when you put the wheel on. It kind of just fills it up and just makes it look like it did OEM there. So luckily the other side is the same, or pretty close to the same, where I can still use the same template, just flip it over and you know, bend it the opposite ways. So that'll be my next task, is to do that on the other side. And then moving forward from there, I'm not sure really what I will do yet. Another thing I did earlier today when I first came in, this rod here that supports the Lexan on the rear, when it come down here it touched the Lexan, but after it got to the tabs I made it dive short because of where I thought the wing was going to go. Well, it was below the elevation of this, so the Lexan kind of done like that, and I didn't like it. So I cut the tube off and just put a little riser on it, and that way the Lexan is nice and firm all the way up this rod, and that'll give it good support where it don't flop so much going down the track. And it'll be bolted as well in the middle so it don't try to balloon out. So let's see what's next. So a few more things done. Got the whole front portion of the rear wheel area closed in, and black primer put on it, so that turned out good. Remember I showed these little boxes here, put them in there because we thought that looked a lot better than seeing where the cage tied into the plate and then it just cut off at the end of the rocker there. So that seals it off good so none of the smoke will get inside the car. Put the wheels back on because we got to make sure it's going to clear everything in the back with the carbon. Also been trying to figure out the tunnel, what I'm going to do there exactly. I'm going to start on that today. Got the steering wheel extension on, cut the column down 5 inches. This will help me get in and out of the car a lot easier. So done that yesterday as well. Like I said, now I'm going to start messing with the tunnel. Got the bottles mounted where they're going to go, the fire system here, the CO2 there. I was going to put the CO2 back here, and I still might. I'm not 100% sure yet, but the idea is to keep all the weight really low. This fire bottle is not lightweight by any means. The battery is going to go probably right there. And then I'm thinking of having the electronics on the outside here where it's easily accessible. You'll be able to, you know, mess with things without having to lean over in the car and stuff. So that's my thinking right now. The tunnel, I've got to move the jack to the rear portion of the car to get the rear end loaded to make sure that the drive shaft is going to clear when it's at ride height with this extended all the way back there. I'm probably going to put a hoop here and a hoop here and then let this flare up to the top, because I know the drive shaft will clear up here, but right here it's probably going to get close when it's fully compressed down at ride height. So chipping away at it, one little task at a time. There's just so much to do when you're doing a car from scratch that you don't really realize how many hours it takes when you think it's pretty close to being done, and then you start messing with something, and a couple hours goes by on this task, a couple hours go by on that task, and then you look at it and say, well, I ain't done much and I burnt half a day. So there's a lot to do, but we're trying to get it done. Well, the drive shaft tunnel kind of kicked my butt. We don't have the correct radius for the 1 inch to get that piece of moly sheet right there to go right up in it. So I had to do some tweaking and try to tighten the radius of that a little bit so it would go up in the tube. But I think it came out really good. Also jacked it up a little bit. Instead of sitting it all the way down on the floor, this give enough clearance where if the shocks were to ever bottom out, the drive shaft would not hit. It give it enough travel clearance there. That's what you got to always consider with these chassis, is leave enough room below and above for the drive shaft. That was one of the problems with the car before, is I didn't have enough room for the separation I needed, and we had to limit the separation, and it would try to separate and then it would feel like it hit a wall going down the track. But really happy with the way the tunnel turned out. And these pins and the clevises, it drops right on there with no effort. So I still got to weld everything up. Everything's just kind of tacked in place now, but got to go pick up my daughter from dance, and I'll get back on it tomorrow. So doing a little bit less videoing of all the tasks I'm doing, just because it really slows me down trying to get every step of the way I do on film. So because I'm trying to make a certain deadline with this thing, I'm just kind of powering through stuff and showing you the finished stuff as I go. So I'll try to take some time to film some of the processes, but a lot of this stuff I haven't done before, especially with the carbon stuff. So I might not film that because it's not really instructional. If it's my first time, I don't want to act like I'm a pro whenever I'm not. So the things that I have done this morning is got the battery mounted in place, or the battery mount. This is from Bomb Track Fabrication. Their website's a very nice billet mount for the 16 volt go lithium style. Got the tunnel done, and everything is welded pretty good all the way around, and got everything where it fits really good and can be pulled off and reinstalled in about 20 seconds. So that was the goal there. I think I'm gonna put my CO2 right here, because after talking to Bunton last night, who's gonna do the wiring on the car, he wants to do all the wiring in this area, in this front passenger corner. So I wanted to get the bottle away from there where that would be kind of open. Starting on the carbon, I've got the scallop strips right here. Basically, in holding these in position, I use one of these little magnets here, and you can see it'll kind of hold it in place on the tube, and then you can put an angle finder on it and match the angle to see if you're going straight down the tube or at the same angle as the tube, and the same thing as far as putting the top one, getting it level and stuff. Put just a little one here and a little one here to catch it in between those tubes, because the carbon's kind of gonna have to be notched and stuff around the tubes. I've got my template over here already, and I'm gonna go back there and pull a sheet and start trying to cut it out. Just put some tape around the tube and stuff. Fill the gaps the best you can. Whenever you make templates, I am gonna leave these holes a little bit thick right in here. I'm not gonna cut them all the way out, because I tried to burp there. Because if you cut it too much, you can't make it grow. So it's better to not cut it all the way and then just sand it and just hand fit it as we go. But that's what I'm gonna do now, and we'll see how that goes. piece fit in there. We had to tweak it just a little bit, sand around some corners and just make it fit up real nice. Using these temporary rivets. If y'all don't know what these are Clecos. Use these little pliers here, push them in, push it in a hole, and then you let out and it will hold it in place. And this is so you don't have to bolt it up every single time. But you basically just squeeze it together, push it in the hole, and release. And it holds it in place. Holds it pretty snug too. This is what pretty much every guy that fabricates, that does sheet metal or anything like that, or carbon or whatever on these cars uses. Because if you didn't, it would really suck to have to bolt and unbolt things, and you really don't know if it fits good unless it's snug, and these do a good job of holding it snug. This thing is going to look awesome with all this carbon in the back. The first piece is done, so now we got a lot more pieces. Let's get to work. So after checking more yesterday afternoon, this idea is not going to work. What I'd originally planned to kind of kick the carbon up on the back, to kind of go up underneath this and hide the tail lights. I'm gonna have to do something else for that because I forgot the vent tank bolts on top of the frame on the back, and it's just not gonna work the way I wanted. So after a few hours playing with some paper, cardboard templates, stuff like that, and here this morning I'm back to my original idea of just staying level with the framing going down. You can see I've used 1/4" rod here, kind of made a skeleton layout for the carbon to rest on. I actually used one of my window holes right here where I could make sure I was the same on both sides. And I'm gonna start laying out templates after I get these back supports in. You can see I'm doing it just like a fiberglass body car. Basically just pieces of sheet metal welded on the end of the 1/4" rod. I formed them to the shape of the fender, get them flat, and tape them in there really good. I welded right here good and firm where it's not going to move. And then I've got some 3M panel bond ordered, and I will go back and panel bond the outside ones. Carbon don't weigh anything, so it's not gonna need more than that, but I think this is gonna really work out good. So it'll be 3 sections. I don't think I'll try to bend that carbon. I might try to, but it's pretty expensive if I start screwing it up. That's what's going on this morning. I'm going to get one more support across here in the back, and then I will start laying out templates for this carbon, which I don't think I have enough template paper. I might have to use cardboard, but paper is just easier to deal with. You can sneak up on paper a lot easier than cardboard. But moving right along, I think probably in the next day or so of messing with it, I'll have this whole back section closed in with carbon, and then I'm probably gonna move to the front of the car and start addressing the turbo kit and stuff like that. I just wanted to get this done where I could run some plumbing and different things and just get everything planned out, because this stuff, even though it's not that difficult, it's not that fun for me either, but I'm learning, and because I don't do this a lot, this is good for me to practice on my own car, because we got to do Jonathan's, we got to do some of this on the Jeep, and so far it's turning out pretty sick, and I'm pretty happy with what I've accomplished on it so far. So let's get these other supports in and see how far we get today in the next few hours. Well, that's going to do it for this week's update. I will continue on this next week whenever I have time in between other things, and see if we can get the rest of the carbon done, and then we'll be moving to the front. See you guys.